If you have a true, strange, or scary story, consider sending it my way. Just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And of course, thank you. I recently started listening to your podcast and I'm hooked. I'm not sure whether this counts as a glitch in the Matrix, but I'm sure it was a weird experience. This was a couple of years ago at around 8:30 p.m. I was laying in bed falling asleep when I realized that I couldn't move. There was no sleep paralysis demon, as some people claim to see, just an overwhelming sense of fear. It stayed like this for a few minutes. Suddenly, my ears started ringing, but with a really high-pitched noise. Not the usual ear-ringing people experience. The sound was almost painfully loud, and just as it reached the loudest point, I was awake. I was able to move again and sort of just lay there, confused. I felt weird, like I was still asleep. I closed my eyes and, well, I don't know how to explain it. There was this pressure in my head that I was able to increase if I really focused on it. With the pressure increasing, the deafening ringing started, and it kept getting louder in my head. Then there was silence. I couldn't move. I was back in sleep paralysis. However, I was still awake. I was fully awake and was completely aware of what was happening. It felt unreal that I was able to put my body into a temporary paralysis. The only downside was that I wasn't able to control when it ended. I laid there for a few minutes trying to understand what was happening, and poof, I was moving again. This happened multiple times, and it felt like it had been this weird sequence for hours. My mom then knocked on my door to check whether I was going to sleep. I explained what just happened, and she sort of just agreed that it was weird but didn't pay much attention to it. After she left, I couldn't do it anymore. I've tried multiple times since then, but to no avail. I should add that I lucid dream a lot. Many of my dreams are incredibly vivid, but I have no doubts that I was awake during this experience. With the lucid dreaming, it's more that halfway through the dream I'll realize that I'm dreaming, and suddenly my dream there will be a water bottle. If I pick up the water bottle and pour the water on my head, my dream version of me will fall onto the ground from a first-person perspective and I'll wake up. Pretty cool trick, but it was weird the first time it happened. Also, my mom told me that when I was younger, I had major night terrors. In the middle of the night, I would suddenly start screaming bloody murder and kicking around in fear. According to her, my eyes were wide open, but I wasn't awake. Again, I don't know if this is really a glitch, but it's more just my unusual experiences with sleep. I wasn't much of a partier. In fact, I consider myself an introvert. Nonetheless, I was invited to a party. I didn't want to go, but my girlfriends coerced me into it. I need to get out and meet people, they said. They promised me that they were going to be there and would stick with me. They said it was more like a small get-together anyways. Despite my better judgment, I agreed. I spent the next hour or so getting cleaned up and picking out the perfect top to go with my jeans. I finally decided on a light blue silk blouse. I donned the perfect pair of heels, and as ready as I would ever be, I headed out to my little truck. I set the GPS on my phone and headed off. After some trials and tribulations, I found the place. There were a few more cars than I expected, so I sat in the truck and watched. Not sure now about my decision. Even though I kept my circle of friends small, I did know most of the people that arrived after me. The crowd, however, was getting far too big for my comfort level, but I finally built up my nerve enough to head in. I got out of my truck and stood beside it, watching the going-ons inside the house through the picture window in the living room. I was just about to climb back into my truck and leave when Anne and Sue came running out the front door calling my name. They ran up one on each side of me, knowing exactly what I was about to do. They took me by the arms and started leading me to the front door. Initial greetings were stressful, but I made it through. As the evening went on, I was mixed with both feelings of anxiety, high and low. All in all, though, it was a fun evening. I was proud of myself for making it through. As the evening went on and people left, strangely enough, my anxiety got a little worse. No hiding in the crowd, I guess. During one of the harder spells, I decided it was time to say my goodbyes. I gave Anne and Sue a big kiss and hug and headed out to my truck. About halfway to my truck, I heard my name being called. I turned to see a guy named Randy running up to me. I had seen Randy around at school, passing him in the hallways and so forth, but I never officially met him until tonight. He was nothing special, but seemed like an okay guy. He had an average build. His brown hair was a bit too long and needed a wash. His brown eyes were kind of dull and lifeless. His complexion could use some work too. No, he was nothing special at all. I didn't want to appear rude, and anyway, he seemed harmless, so I stopped and let him catch up to me. He looked hot and sweaty and stuttered a little. Hi, Karen. I was thinking that maybe we could go out sometimes. I was shocked, to say the least. I had never even talked to him, so I answered as politely as I could. No, Randy. I'm focusing on school, so I'm not into dating right now at all. It was his turn to look shocked. But we have a connection. When we saw each other in the hall, you stared at me. I had no idea as to what he was talking about, so I told him, I'm sorry, Randy, but I really don't know what you're talking about. I put my hand on his shoulder. You're a nice guy and all, but I'm simply not interested. I started to turn, and he grabbed my arm, preventing me from leaving. Red lights started flashing through my mind. He blurted out, but I have feelings for you. And I know you have feelings for me. I can see it in your eyes. I tried to pull away, but he was too strong. Randy, stop. You're hurting me. But, Karen, we are meant to be together. You know it, said Randy. I pulled and pulled, but he was far too strong. I started to scream, let go of me! Let go of me! He only held on tighter and tried to grab my other arm. I managed to keep it away from his grasp and punched him in the face. Rage seemed to wash over his face. We are meant to be together. You know it as much as I do. Now, you're coming with me. I tried to kick him, but only fell down. He didn't stop, but started dragging me toward his car. You will see, it's me and you forever. I started screaming at the top of my lungs. Help! Help! I was crying now with tears streaming down my face. I heard someone yell out, Hey, leave her alone! And the next thing I know, Anne was pounding on his back. He was pulling me across the gravel. It was cutting into my back. He kept pulling and shouting, She loves me, and I love her. Through my tears, I saw that two more girls that I didn't know had joined into the fight. He now had his arms across his face trying to protect himself, but he kept right on pulling. She's mine. Leave us alone. Stop, you're hurting her. If you love her, then stop. I heard one of the girls yell. You effer. Try this one on for size. I heard Anne yell as she then kicked him squarely in the jewels. He stumbled and then fell over. Now holding my hair, my head bounced off the curb and I saw stars. When I refocused, he was still holding on to me, but all three girls were kicking him relentlessly. It took what seemed like hours, but was probably only seconds when he finally released me. I rolled back onto the driveway and my back felt like it was on fire. My fear had now changed to anger, and maybe even rage. I jumped up and joined the fray, kicking him with all my might. He rolled onto his stomach and started to crawl away. The girls and I kept kicking and kicking as he dragged himself along the ground, yelling, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" He made it to his car and dragged himself up by the door handle. He managed to open the door despite the barrage of kicks. All three of us were now pounding him with our fists. He pulled himself into the car and managed to close the door. He started his car, put it in gear, and sped away. Now the girls were yelling, "Yeah, you better take off. We don't want your kind around here," as they started picking up rocks and throwing them at his car. The girls came up to me and started hugging me. That hurt my back terribly, seeing me cringe, and pulled up my shirt, exposing my scraped raw back. "Girl, you're gonna need stitches. I'm taking you to the hospital." Despite my protests, the three girls loaded me into the car and drove me to the hospital. Amazingly, after one look at me, the intake girl sent me right in. The nurse came in, looked me over, and then left to get a camera. She took lots of pictures. Another nurse came in and started cleaning my back. After I was cleaned up, it wasn't that bad, however. 3 cuts had to be stitched up. The rest were gauzed and bandaged. They made me stay through the night, as I also had a concussion. The police arrived sometime during the excitement. Apparently, the hospital had called them after talking to my friends about what happened. They took all of our statements, took more pictures, and advised me that they were going to charge Randy and issue a restraining order. They also told me that I would have to go to court, which scared me. I had never been to court before. Other than those court dates, I never saw Randy again, and I guess he learned what happens when you mess with us girls. I'm slowly moving in with my girlfriend, and a few nights ago, we were picking up items to take to her house. While going through things in the kitchen, I saw a noticeable shadow move on my basement stairs. For some context, my house, I've noticed, is on a dimensional rift. The space between dimensions is very thin, and I have previously caught glimpses of another house while upstairs. When I moved in, I had noticed a presence. It never felt uncomfortable or that the presence was malevolent, but while taking things outside, I became very aware of the feeling of being watched. My girlfriend asked me what was wrong, and I told her I saw something inside. She told me that she had seen it too. We both noticed a shadow in the window. She asked me how freaked out I was, and I told her not enough not to go back inside, since I had to use the bathroom. After getting inside, she stated that she noticed the presence, and as well as a second one. I sat on the couch while my girlfriend states that she wants to talk to it. Being raised to never mess with spirits, I was very apprehensive. She lit a candle and asked for them to make their presence known. I was getting anxious and was not prepared for the possibility of things in my house being tossed around, but that's not the kind of contact that proceeded to happen. I got this overwhelming surge of emotions and could make out the figure of a woman. I mentioned this to my girlfriend, who said that she could feel the spirit of a child. Suddenly, the flame on the candle starts to flicker, and I can make out the figure of a young girl, about 6, with puffed up cheeks trying to blow out the candle the same way you would blow out a birthday candle. Eventually, my girlfriend blows out the candle herself and comes and sits by me. I see the little girl's shoulder drop in disappointment, in an "aw man" fashion. My girlfriend begins to ask the spirit questions. She speculates that there was a tragic death, to which I am suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of grief that I know is not my own. She asks the spirit if she lost a child. Again, another wave of grief. She speculates that the spirits are from the Depression era. The word yes comes out of my mouth before I even have time to think about what is happening or what is being asked. She asked the spirit if she was married. Again, I say yes, but that he was no longer around. I get this conflicting feeling that she's sad her husband is not around, but also grateful. My girlfriend asks if he had hurt her. Again, I'm told yes. To which my girlfriend asks her, "Did he cause you to lose the baby?" I immediately start crying. My girlfriend asks her if she was Catholic, to which I hear the spirit laugh and say no. I speculate and ask if she was Protestant. She says no to that as well. My girlfriend asks if she was not religious, to which I'm told no, they are not. At this point, I'm overwhelmed, excited, and yet feeling very calm. My girlfriend asks why she was there. I started to feel sad and conflicted. I'm getting that her baby that she lost is not like the little girl she has there with her. I ask her why she was there in my house. I feel a hand on my cheek and see her smile. She says, "For you." I look at her confused and ask what she means. She says, "You have no one watching over you." My girlfriend is now nervous because she's afraid that I may be opening myself up to a possession or being followed by the spirit. But I feel only calm and caring and peace from this spirit. My girlfriend tells her that she will keep me safe and not let anything happen to me. Again, I feel her hand on my face and see her smile. She says, "I know." I thank her for watching over me while I've lived in this house. She smiles and just nods. She then starts making her way towards my closet door. I see her daughter run up to her and take her hand. They then walk through a slip of light, and suddenly it all makes sense. I've seen their house before. I've had glimpses of a house that's not mine, but that is there. I felt her for a while after moving there, but I didn't always feel her. At that time, we decided that we needed to get home, but felt like it had been only a matter of minutes. However, when looking at our watches, we see that it's been over 2 hours. It's now after 4 a.m. My spirits had shown up in the witching hour. I would never have approached the spirit on my own. I was invigorated by the experience, however, and I will never forget talking to the mother from another dimension that has been watching over me. Hey friends, I just wanted to let you all know that I do have signed posters still for sale. Just go to the Ko-fi link, that's K-O-F-I, down below in the pinned comment. Alright, let's continue. Hi Raven. Firstly, I've got to say that I love your podcast. I found it about a year ago when I was a delivery driver for a flower shop, and now I still binge listen while out driving. Thank you for giving people an outlet. I have a few stories of my own that I've been meaning to share. I came from a fairly normal family, however a few of us have a special gift. The ability to see people passed on from the other side. My mother, myself, and my younger brother in particular. My mom and me having the strongest ability to connect with spirits, and being highly intuitive. When I was young, around 5 years old, we lived in a small town that was surrounded by desert, and a few ghost towns. This town that I grew up in was also known for being quite haunted. My brother and I can recall being visited by a woman in an old-timey dress with red hair, pulled back into a bun sitting in the rocking chair of his nursery room. We believe this to be one of our ancestors, but have never had any confirmation. The house was never haunted, and when I think back to that time of my life, I get a strange feeling. Eerie yet comforting at the same time. Like it only confirms that this was our bloodline. In the same town, I had a friend who lived in an apartment building on Main Street. We would drive past this building every single day on our way to drop off the older kids at school. I would see the same old woman in the top window of this apartment building. She didn't look scary, just rather old and almost see-through. Like how they portray ghosts in the movie. I told my mom about the woman, but being a child, I didn't think much of it. I honestly thought that she was just a cute old lady that lived there. I would even wave at her sometimes. One day, my mom and I went to this building to visit my friend. We asked the property manager if we could go to the top floor. To both of our surprise, He informed us that the top floor had been uninhabited and, quite frankly, structurally damaged for many years. I guess this was the first time my mom and I realized that I had this gift, the Shining. I don't know how long my mom has had the Shining, but she hasn't told me stories like this from her own childhood, but we lived with it together. Eventually, we moved to a new town in the same state, but that didn't change our experiences. My mother got very into family history, following bloodlines as far back as they could go, discovering old family legends, and more recently has even found 2 long-lost relatives that are still alive because of her obsession. When she first started getting into this, she would be visited by spirits in her room at night. At first, my father thought that she was having bad dreams. She would wake up in the middle of the night, staring into her closet and seeing whoever it was waking up my dad saying, "Do you see that? Do you see that little boy standing there?" Terrifying my dad and my mom too at first, but it happened often enough for her to get used to it. Afterwards, she would jump on her computer and be able to find these people that she saw, whether by old photo or by matching the name to the feeling she got when she saw them. She felt like it was her calling, in a way, to help them pass on or something. That kind of trickled out over the years, and she didn't talk about it much, so as to not scare us kids. Meanwhile, just a floor below my parents', I had a visitation in my own room. I'll never forget this experience, as it was both equally terrifying and strangely comforting. I was 14 years old, and always a little rebellious. Earlier that week, a friend and I had planned to hang out after school and smoke weed. Still being pretty young and the first time for both of us, we had to plan this out. I walked over to her house, and we ended up asking her older brother to help us do it. Having no paper and no clue what we were even doing, we ripped out a page from an old Bible. I'm probably going to hell for that one, but it's kind of a fun story for a first time. Then, every night for the rest of that week, something odd happened in my room. I felt my feet being tugged as I was laying in bed. I chalked it up to it could have been my cat, but I would have known if my cat was up in my room. He was pretty vocal. And this didn't feel like paws kneading on the blanket. It was a tugging at my feet. One at a time, this sensation would go on for 3 nights in a row. Then on the 4th night, I was laying in my bed watching The Notebook, great movie by the way, on one of those 2000s box TVs that would go to static if you didn't have it set to any specific output. I had watched it all the way to the end right before the credits started rolling, and all of a sudden my TV turned to static and extremely loud, then to black. My room is in the basement, so at night, with the lights turned off, and no other light source, it was pitch black in there. This freaked me out considering all the other things that had happened that week. I felt like I was in trouble with God for smoking the devil's lettuce. I jumped up from my bed and quickly flipped on the light switch, only to find a huge handprint across my TV in dust. I started thinking back to the weird stuff that had been happening all week, and realized it wasn't just nothing. The static, the tugging on my feet, it all scared me enough. I tried to just go to bed and not think about it, because what else could I really do? Laying there struggling to fall asleep, I started getting a feeling that I wasn't alone. My eyes were almost forced open to see the figure of a man standing beside my bed. Like the first spirit I had seen, he was slightly transparent. He had a plaid shirt and jeans, short brown hair. He looked kind of young, maybe in his 20s. He stared at me. The expression he wore was one of concern. He wasn't angry, didn't speak, didn't do anything. He just stared. I stared back in complete and utter shock. It felt like forever, but it was probably only around 3 seconds or less that we made this connection. The only thing I could think in my head was, "Who are you? What's your name, and who are you?" In my head, he answered, "Robert," and then he vanished. This scared the living hell out of me. I booked it upstairs to my little sister's room, and I swear that I didn't sleep in my own bed for weeks after that. I did tell my parents about seeing him, though. I asked my mom if we had anyone in our family history named Robert, and to my surprise, she said that we didn't. Over time, this just became a memory and another spooky story. Until one day, years later, I was telling the story to my dad, who acted like he didn't know about it. Though I remember telling him I saw a ghost in my room, and that's why I wouldn't sleep in there for a month. He said, "Robert? That could be your great Uncle Bobby." My paternal grandmother's brother, who died at a young age due to impaired driving. This would have been in the 60s, which matched up to his attire and overall appearance. I had never even heard of this guy. No one in my family really knew him besides my grandma, because he died long before any of us were alive. But for some reason, it felt right. I told my dad about the pot and how I had smoked for the first time that same week. I believe that my great Uncle Bobby visited me as a warning to what could happen if I kept on that path. That's why he looked so concerned. That's why he kept pulling at my feet. All of it made sense now, years later. He was looking out for me. Thankfully, I haven't gotten into any incidents or near-death experiences. Unfortunately, however, even some years after this conversation with my dad, my older sister did die in a tragic accident where alcohol was involved. I think somehow spirits know what happens in the future and in the past. They don't live between the constructs of time that we do. But if that is the case, I wish my sister could have been the one visited instead of me. It's been 3 years since she passed, and I haven't been visited by her in person, but many times in dreams. My husband's grandfather died the same year as my sister. He was the last person to visit me from the other side 2 years ago. Like the others, he didn't say anything, he just stared at us. Quite contently, though, while we did yard work when his grandma was away to kind of surprise her when she got back. I didn't really know how to tell my husband that I just saw his dead grandpa watching us pull weeds, so I waited until after we had left, and then of course had to tell him all of my other stories. The ones that I just shared with you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sorry that it was so long. It just made sense to share it all in one story. Thank you for your time, and for those of you out there, keep on shining. I've written in once before recently, but was just reminded of an event that occurred a few years ago. I don't dream often, but when I do, the dreams are usually very vivid. A couple of years ago, I went through a period where I had dreams every night for about 2 weeks. The dreams were fairly normal, nothing out of the ordinary, except that the same woman appeared in every dream. She appeared to be in her mid-50s with blonde hair. She did not play a part in the dreams, but could just be seen standing off to the side or in the background, watching what was happening. I live in an apartment complex, and after a few weeks of the dreams, a new neighbor was moving into the next building, right near my assigned parking spot. I was getting out of my car as the new neighbor walked out of her apartment, and it was the woman who had been appearing in my dreams. She dead stopped and just stood there staring at me, just like in the dreams. I was kind of freaked out and hurriedly walked to my apartment. I never saw her again, and about a week later, somebody else was moving into that apartment, which had apparently still been vacant. She never appeared in my dreams again, nor did I ever see her again in real life. I have no idea who or what she was, and if anyone has any thoughts, I would love to hear them. This was in summer of 1997. I was 7, and it was when 2 memorable things happened that year. I had a ghost speak to me from the stairs to my bedroom, and Princess Diana passed away in Paris, France that summer. The stairs went straight up to 2 bedrooms. My sister's was on the right, and mine was on the left. My parents, sister, and I were going to go out for dinner. My mom gave me the task to hurry my older sister up from upstairs. I said sure, excited to go out with my family to dinner as it was a rare occurrence. My mom left to wait in the car with Dad. I went to the washroom, and when I came out, I was at the bottom of the stairs looking up. The washroom was right beside the bottom of the stairs. I smiled big and yelled so Carrie could hear me. "Mom and Dad want to leave, Carrie. They started the car, let's go." I listened very briefly. Nothing. "Hey, Carrie, let's go." Still nothing. Is she deaf or just listening to music? For some reason, I didn't want to go upstairs to check on her. "Carrie!" I said it in a silly but come on, hurry up kind of way. Still nothing. I sensed that someone was up there and was confused as to why my sister was ignoring me. "Hey, Carrie!" And then finally I heard a whisper from upstairs. "Yes?" I paused because it didn't sound like my sister, but more masculine. I thought maybe I heard my sister wrong and continued on my happy-go-lucky way. "Mom and Dad want to leave now, Carrie, let's go." My mom was suddenly behind me. "What are you doing, Krista?" I jumped, surprised to find my mom there. "I'm getting Carrie down as you asked from upstairs." Mom responded, "Carrie's with us in the car. She's waiting for you." I was confused. I told Mom, I thought she was up there. But I didn't tell anyone that something spoke back to me. I definitely heard a yes, and it sounded like it came from the top of the stairs. I didn't see anything or anyone, but something did respond to me from the top of the stairs. Luckily, being a kid, I totally forgot about it, and went up to my room after supper like normal. Later, when we moved from that house, I later remembered the experience. This is the reason why our former roommate left our house in such a hurry. The story isn't about me, but a friend of mine. For the sake of the story, we will call her JD. She's a roommate of ours, and this story happens to her during her time at a nightclub. She was busy dancing when a man walked up to her and asked her if she wanted to dance with him, but she kindly rejected his gesture. She continued dancing. The song soon ended, and she was just getting ready to leave, when suddenly she felt a hard shove from behind. She fell to the ground and stared at the source of the push. It didn't take her long to realize that the man that offered to dance with her had angrily shoved her over. She was terrified, but luckily a couple of people came to her rescue. She pointed at the guy who had pushed her, and those kind people shoved him over in return, and then beat the living crap out of him. Needless to say, she had serious trauma after that incident. So, that, my friends, was a collection of some strange and scary stories submitted by listeners. Scary stories from you, if you will. What the thumbnail says. Probably going to name it a little differently in the title, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter how that works. Most people just see the thumbnail and click, but that's not the point. Anyways, strange and scary stories from you, listeners. All these stories were sent directly to me through the Redx website, through the big click here to send in your story button on the website at astheravendreams.com. Yeah. The site does work again. I know there was some fiasco. There was a bit of a fiasco with it last week, but it's back up and working. Everything's good. Everything's great. Fantastic, if you will. And I thank y'all who still submitted your stories through email or through my Reddit or just through the website, ignoring the big red flags that Google threw at you. Though I do not normally recommend ignoring those warnings because, you know, those sites do exist, phishing sites. But anyways, thank you to all my listeners who check out this video to get to this point, that send in their stories. Because of you guys, this channel continues to grow and continues to have amazing content. Honestly, without y'all, I don't know where I'd be. I would not be where I am right now. That is for damn sure. It wouldn't be 36,000, almost 37,000 subs in with, what, 700 collections? 739? 740? Yeah. Y'all are amazing people, really. So, thank you for listening. And if you did enjoy these stories and want more like this, please do consider hitting the like button on this video. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider hitting subscribe. You can also go down below the video and leave me a comment with your thoughts. How you're doing. How your day's going. What you have planned for this weekend. What you have planned for next week. What do you have planned for October? I have a lot planned for October. Planned. You know what they say about those who plan? Those who plan to fail planning. Those who fail to plan will fail at their planning failures. Yeah. Those are all words I said. Anyways, you can also join Patreon memberships, get early access to content like this. I do also have a coffee link down below, that's KOFI, where you can buy signed, hand-signed, by me, posters. I sign them with the blue or purple or gold or whichever metallic Sharpie I happen to pull out of my bin. I just sign them with whatever's on my mind and then put a signature on them, so yeah. If you're interested, they're $15 a piece, $7.95 shipping to all of the US. If you're international, please email me first so we can talk about it. That's going to be a little different just because shipping is way more expensive, so I may have to meet you in the middle on that one, if possible. Yeah. Should have more stuff here soon. Also, if you order a poster, I do throw in other things, stickers specifically. I have a lot of stickers, so I throw in free stickers because I'm that kind of person. I love stickers, so. I think that's everything. I mean, there's super thanks, which is a tip to the channel. You can listen elsewhere if you want: Apple, Spotify, Audible, etc. And yeah, hope you're having a beautiful week so far. Hope you have a beautiful weekend. Hope I do see you again here very soon. But until then, remember that you are loved, that you are valid, that you are important, that you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love, and sleep well.